6 old DC comics. Hi everybody, welcome to Garage Geek. Today I have 6 DC comics to show off. I have a whole bunch of comics that I got from my niece that were kind of musty and borderline moldy. And I've had them, I didn't put them in, most of them, I didn't put in bags and boards yet because I was kind of still letting them air out a bit. And it's been almost a year and I think they're ready to be put in bags and boards. But I thought instead of just putting them in the bags and boards, I want to read them first. And so I grabbed the first 6 and 3 of them are Superboys. So I'm going to do a Superboy interspersed with some other ones. So the first one is Superboy number 190. And look at this gorgeous cover. Now, this is a trick cover because it does have to deal with a Mad Piper, which it's called the Mad Piper of Camp Bravo, but Superboy doesn't do that. And yes, there is a backup story with the Legion of Superheroes. So this comic is from September of 1972. Now, the interior art is by Bob Brown and Murphy Anderson. I'm not sure who did the cover. I really do like the cover art, though the interior art is not as good. In fact, it's a little bit wonky, but that's okay. I mean, we're inside of a cave and look at Superboy. Looks like he's kind of surfing in there. And this story is very Pied Piper-ish, but it also reminded me of Holes because the reason that these people are doing the pipes is because they're giving them commands to search and dig tunnels and look for buried treasure. It's all fun. Like I said, the art is serviceable. Like you could see, it's, you know, not the greatest, but it's certainly not bad. For example, if you look at Superboy's hand here, there's just something a little bit off about his thumb, but it doesn't really detract from the story. There are some silly shenanigans at one point. Superboy picks up a bear that's bitten him. I don't know, I think that would actually hurt the bear. Superboy, in order to keep his secret identity safe, is the butt of all the orphans' jokes. Here are the kids digging tunnels, and they're hypnotized, so they just dig all night long. This is the way they look, hypnotized. Here's a great advertisement for Commandy number 1, which is a great series by Jack Kirby. Here's a great advertisement. You can get 14 of these hit records for $2.98. Look at these awesome. Yeah, I remember those days. I have to say that when I was young, I was a scammer. I used to do it a lot under different names. The second story is a Legion of Superheroes story, and it's called Murder the Leader. Now, in all of these stories, the art is by Dave Cockrum, and this one is Dave Cockrum and Murphy Anderson. So Dave Cockrum, pretty famous artist, and he did the earlier New X-Men before John Byrne took over. John Byrne and I forget who else. And you can see his style. He's actually a really good artist. This story is about 2 of the Fatal 5, I think they're called the Fatal 5, teaming up to try to murder Mon-El, who's the leader of the Legion. And you can see this great panel art. I mean, look at her. Pretty awesome. I mean, the women always have the skimpiest costumes. It's hilarious. So that was Superboy number 190. It was a lot of fun. So next, we're going to move on to Rima, the Jungle Girl number 2. And this has a great black background cover by Joe Kubert. And interesting thing is, Joe Kubert didn't do the interior art. The interior art was done by Nestor Redondo. Now, this is for Donald Westlake because Donald Westlake knows all of the old artists and what they worked on. And so I had to look up Nestor Redondo, and he was one of the wave of Filipino artists that were brought in, I think, by DC Comics. And a lot of them moved into the magazines like Warren and that type of and Savage Sword, and they worked on a lot of those. So Nestor Redondo was one of them, and I think he illustrated every issue of Rima and his art is really nice. So here's a almost a double page spread. And I'll point out some, even though the color might look faded, I think it's supposed to be that color because you could see in the circle, but the line work is really pretty. And Rima, even though she's human, she's almost like a jungle goddess, and she can communicate with the animals and control them in her area. Even outside of her area, there's a lot of legends around her, like the tribesmen or the tribespeople outside of her area have a lot of myths around her. And this guy goes in and he thinks he's trying to save her, but she saves him. And that all happened in issue 1. And so now he does whatever he can to try and see her. He sneaks out at night. I mean, look at this gorgeous panel. And here she is. She's swimming with crocodiles. I mean, yeah, the line work on this is beautiful. Look at her hanging out in this tree. And her dress is made of spider webs. Oh, here it is. They're explaining her how she's fixing a tear with some spider web that she gets from the animals, from the spiders. But the one thing that I really thought was funny. So the uncle has to go really far out of her sphere because she doesn't allow anyone to eat meat. And so he goes way out, and the hero of the story, or I don't even know if it's a hero because Rima's the hero, but let's just say the protagonist of this story, he follows and he sneaks away so that he can eat meat, but he goes ahead and eats it too. And the next morning, Rima can tell, and Rima's mad. Look at her, but look at what a beautiful picture that is. And then she just walks away. She's like, nope, you don't eat the meat. Rima's my kind of girl. I like her. And oh, look at this. Oh my gosh, any 15 records or any 11 tapes. So the records are worth less than the actual 8-track tapes. That's pretty hilarious. Yeah, so throughout Rima, the art is really nice. Now, I think my comic is a bit faded, but the art really does shine through. There is a 1-pager called Little Brontosaurus, and it was pretty funny. Okay, next we have Alex Nino, and he was also one of the wave of the Filipino artists. And I have to say that I even dig this art more. I mean, look at that cool introductory panel. And the funny thing is, this is Rima the Jungle Girl, and they just throw in a backup space opera show, and it's like a really bad Star Trek script. I'm not going to go into it. Well, maybe I will. So there's this like thing on the planet, and it worked all the humans to death, and it's waiting for new humans to come to make slaves of them to help get the machines going again. It's really strange, but the art is a lot of fun. But look at this cool ad for all the comics that were out at the time. I mean, wow. I hope I have them all. I know I have that one for sure. At the very end, this was an interesting read because it was called The Riddle of the Didi. And this actually tells the legend of the story that they used for Rima. And I guess it's a Venezuelan. It's called Daughter of the Didi. And she was from Colombia, Brazil, Venezuela, and of an evil spirit in the woods called the Daughter of Didi. And everything that this spirit did in the tale, they tried to incorporate it. Like they said how she would wear spider webs and she would swim with crocodiles and that kind of thing. So that was a pretty interesting read. Now I hope that this isn't fake because they totally got me believing it. So the third comic is another Superboy, and this one is Superboy starring the Legion of Superheroes, and this is number 198. I think the other one was 190, so this is 8 issues later. And this is also art by Dave Cockrum, and this was from October of 1973. So I would have been about 5.5. So this involves, again, the Fatal 5, but they do a time caper. So they send what's her name? Emerald Enchantress. They send a few of the Fatal 5 back in time, and they set it up so that the future Legion is wiped out of time. And once that happens, they have 24 hours. And if they don't stop it within 24 hours, it becomes permanent. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I actually enjoy this because I like time travel. You can totally see Dave Cockrum's style in this. So Superboy pretends to be ill so he can run away and become Superboy. Like, tell me that doesn't look like something right out of the first, the new X-Men. I mean, it looks like a panel right from the comic. So here is the space where the Legion Hall disintegrated, and they have 24 hours. So I guess the time change is very localized because it only applies to that one region. Yeah, here we go. Like, look, yeah, pretty cool artwork from Dave Cockrum. Yeah, I just love these old ads. Here's Ironjaw, Shazam, and that first issue of Black Magic, which I'm so lucky that I have. So, of course, the Legion is able to outwit them. And the funny thing is, the two people who are in the 31st century, or I think they say 2793, something like that. Oh, yeah, well, in the distant 30th century. They're standing when the Legion Hall returns. They're standing right in the place where the jail is. It's pretty funny. But overall, this issue is also very enjoyable. I really liked the Legion of Superheroes when I was a kid. And so I don't know if I actually read these older issues because I wouldn't have had access to them. Maybe some of them were reprinted. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Legion when I was young. We are halfway through. Now, the fourth one is Our Army at War, starring Sergeant Rock and Easy Company. And this is February 1969. So I would have been 1 year and a month old when this came out. It's a 12 center, and you got this great Joe Kubert cover. Now, I've said many times that I'm not a big fan of Joe Kubert, but I'm kind of, I guess I didn't like his later stuff, but these older covers are pretty cool. Now, the interior art is also by Joe Kubert, and you got this great opening panel. Now, this story is based on the fact that Sergeant Rock dies, and then Easy Company have to go on their merry way and, figure out. But it's all like a ruse in the end. Look at this cool top panel. And then this is pretty racy because Sergeant Rock comes out screaming, "Stay back, Easy. The hills are crawling with lice." And you got the Germans there. I don't know. That's kind of like, to me, I think that's pretty racy. You also have, a Native American with like feathers coming out of his helmet. I don't know. But overall, it's a really nice story, nice comic. It's told in multiple parts. They mourn him, they move on. We got these snow scenes. Yeah, I really like the banners at the top of these. This is a especially great panel. I love that. After the story is over, we have a double-page spread showing two different kinds of airplanes, one for the Allies and one for the Axis. I could see some young boys like going all geeky over that. Here is an ad for a Batman comic. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then we have Russ Heath, who does Trench Trap. And this art is very different from the Joe Kubert art, and it's really interesting. Now, I immediately got a sense that this is probably someone from the Golden Age, and it's about a guy who wants to escape his life. He always feels trapped, and as soon as he gets sent into the army, they put him in a tank, and so he feels trapped. But by the end, he's going to be in a situation where he's out in the open, and he realizes how dangerous it is, and then he decides to willingly go back into his trap. And it's really cool, these trenches that they have, and he's stuck in those trenches. They do this 2-page spread about different dogs, which I thought was really nice. And they even say over here, be kind to animals. I especially appreciated that. At the very end, we have a page done by Costanza, and it's a 1-pager. In fact, I think 4 different panels of just GI hijinks. Kind of fun. So let's go back to Russ Heath again, who was the artist who did this part of the comic. So he is most famous for doing all of the art for these. They were ubiquitous. Every comic seemed to have one of these, and he did this art. And so everybody knows this guy's art, but they just don't know who he is. And he did a lot of this type of thing. Okay, two more. So the next one is a 20-cent Superboy in the Legion of Superheroes. This is the last one. And this is number 201 from March to April of 1974. And this was actually a comic I quite enjoyed. So this is a group of tryouts. Let me go ahead and say that. Again, this is art by Dave Cockrum. You can see his signature there, which, you know, with that curl at the very end, stylized signature. So here we have 3 wannabe Legionnaires. And so they are able to infiltrate into the Legion. Now, what's really funny about this is Superboy is there as the leader because Mon-El's away. And every time one of these wannabe Legionnaires fails, he yells something like, "Dismissed!" or "Rejected!" It's really funny. The art in this is really nice throughout by Dave Cockrum. And like I said, the story is pretty interesting. It starts with a Legionnaire who I was quite familiar with. So I guess this is one of his early adventures. So he sacrifices himself to save Colossal Boy. But unbeknownst to them, he's actually alive in energy form. And Superboy shows them a tape at the beginning of their audition to show what Legionnaires might be called upon to do, which is sacrifice themselves. He's there trying to get back into his suit because his suit can help keep him in corporeal form and communicate. So he has no way of communicating. But what he does do, this is great, rejected! I love it. What the disembodied spirit, I think he's called Energy 1 or something like that. He finds out that one of the trainees is actually someone there who's planning to rob the Legion, get a really important weapon that could help him take over the universe. They have it in their vault from an earlier issue. Of course, it's all foiled in the end. The backup story was also drawn by Dave Cockrum. It's got this great opening panel. He says, "Freeze, you two. Just hand over your valuables and no one will get hurt. I'll hand you nothing but my foot." And he kicks him in the face. But unbeknownst to him, this sets up a mystery. What's going on is there is a Legionnaire called Dream Girl. And of course, she's very scantily clad throughout this entire issue. Wait till you see her pajamas. But she feels like she's a Legionnaire who doesn't have much to offer because all she does is dream. And she's going to go ahead and prove herself by the end because she saves one of the Legionnaires' lives. But, I mean, look at her, her pajamas. But it's actually, it keeps you guessing to the end, and it's kind of a fun reveal. Yeah, I mean, look at her pajamas. I can't stop looking at her pajamas. I'm like, could you actually sleep in that? I don't know. It doesn't look comfortable to me. Oh, and they were promoting these first editions, and these go for good money now. And the final issue, I think I saved one of the best for last, is Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. This one, my copy is a little beat up. But this is where Jimmy and a gorilla switch bodies. And this is Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. It's a 12-center, number 116 from December of 1968. So I would have been about 10 to 11 months old. Here's a great ad for Scooter and Binky Comics. The interior art, I'm not sure who did this interior art. I actually looked it up, but then I promptly forgot. So yeah, they introduce it and then they go back and they start telling the story. And it's a lot of fun. I like the ape when he's in Jimmy's body. He tries to do everything that an ape can do in Jimmy's puny body. And of course they got to be careful so that the ape doesn't actually injure Jimmy's body. Jimmy, as an ape, dresses up and goes to work. And he keeps reporting. And yeah, he's able to help out people all around town. and even other animals. Here's Jimmy, he escapes. It's a lot of fun. It's just silly hijinks. Here's a great ad for a comic, Super Babies. And so the second one is Brainiac, Big Time Operator. So Brainiac has a ray that makes everything gigantic. And this one really cracked me up because they're camping and there's 3 young teens camping. And I noticed they start eating Cheerios, and it's like, and all they do is they say, hey, let's eat this cereal. But I noticed it's an actual Cheerios box. And I was like, what? Product placement? That's weird. And then later, it's not going to be over, because later they go through all these hijinks where everything's gigantic and they can't do things, but they solve it. It's a lot of fun. So they make Kryptonite gigantic. They might make these ants gigantic, fire ants, and they get all bitten up. Later in the comic, they save the day by rolling down the hill in these giant tubes. And it turns out that they're Cheerios that they made gigantic. And it's just an ad. Even Superman is saying, great galaxies, you saved my life with giant Cheerios. This was really cracking me up. And there's a last story, which is really nice. It celebrates the anniversary of Superboy and his first appearance. I guess this issue is known for this because at the beginning, Jimmy and the Jimmy Club, or whatever they're called, they go house to house and they just tell everybody, plant these seeds, and they're different colors, and they don't tell them why, and they say, just trust us, please do it. And then, there's overhead shots of everybody in the town getting together. And then when Superman flies by, he sees the message, which spells out, welcome home, Superman. It says down here, have you forgotten? This is the anniversary of the day you made your first appearance as Superboy. And it's really interesting because now that would be all over the cover of the comic. But it's just a couple of pages in the back, and it's a really neat story. Like I said, besides the Cheerios, I think this issue is more well known for that anniversary story. So there you have Garage Geek going over 6 DC comics. I've got way more to cover. If you thought this was interesting and you would like to know more about the artists and some of the storylines, I'm not going into every story deeply. I know that DC Comics is starting to put out their finest line, and so I'm pretty sure we're going to start to see some of these comics being put into trade paperbacks, which is really cool. I'm really looking forward to getting my first shipment of those, and I'm hoping they're coming within the next day or two, or within this week. I'm so excited for that new line. But if you did enjoy this and you would like me to cover some more old comics, of course, please let me know that in the comments. I want to thank everyone for the support.